It is a great pleasure to announce the 2025 Maryland Teacher of the Year, Kat Locke-Jones. Clap for Kat. Kat teaches 7th grade English language arts at Hampstead Hill Academy in Baltimore City. She's a Baltimore City Schools model teacher and is passionate about teaching students to write and tell their own stories. She holds an English education degree from the University of Delaware and a master's degree in education from Johns Hopkins University. In addition to being an amazing teacher, she is also co-founder of SL24 and Sean's House, a mental health foundation focused on educating, assisting, and supporting students. In this time of stress, trauma, and the many out-of-school challenges our students face, her focus and work is incredibly meaningful to students and families in her school community and beyond. Kat brings clear passion for her work and deeply cares for and supports her students and their dreams. We're honored to have her represent Maryland's teachers this year. Congratulations, Kat, and thanks for joining us today. Your microphone.
Wow, thanks, guys. I appreciate you so much. And Paul, thank you so much for your kind introduction. I'm really honored to be here today with so many amazing educators. And while I'm humbled to be the 2025 Maryland Teacher of the Year, the best title, the title that I'm always the most proud of, is that around 103 7th graders call me Miss Lojo. Whenever I tell someone I teach middle school, after they ask me, usually in a whisper, if I can explain what the word sigma means to them, some of you know, someone says, I bet you have some stories about what happens in your classroom. So today, I'm going to tell a story about two very different students. And before I tell this story, I want to mention that there's going to be moments of lightness and darkness, but I truly believe in the power of vulnerability, and no one makes you feel more able to be vulnerable than a room full of educators. But let me travel back in time to 2018. The first student is a student I taught who we'll call Kenny. The first time I met Kenny's mom in August, she told me what every English teacher wants to hear, how much her son hated reading and writing. But as a young teacher, I was confident that I could rebrand Kenny's opinion of my class. Hey, I was thinking by the end of the year, Kenny might even have a newfound passion for the proper use of a semicolon. He had a soft voice, he was a sweet kid with a love for anime. He would often sit by himself in the lunchroom, drawing pictures, occasionally with his head down, always with headphones on. And he didn't know it yet, and those first few months, I'm not sure if he wanted it, but I had a feeling that Kenny and I would be bonded for life. Then there's the second student, Sean. Now, Sean was the type of kid that every teacher and coach love. You know who I'm talking about. The kid in your classroom who is funny but hardworking. He was the kid that you could partner with any student, especially the student that might need a little extra love. He was Mr. Popular, so much so he would go on to win Homecoming King. He ended up playing Division I basketball at the University of Delaware. But back in 2018, back in Baltimore, things weren't going so well for Kenny in my class. I tried all the tricks an English teacher has to make class exciting. Text with anime, behavior incentives, but I was so focused on the numbers, on the data, that when Kenny started to self-harm in my class, I find myself talking to everyone, social workers, his parents, but I wasn't sure how to talk to Kenny himself. There was a part of me that was so focused on benchmarks, but no matter what, I couldn't get Kenny to write in my class. I kept on asking myself, what more could I do? Until one day in March, I got my first piece of writing, an email. Dear Miss Lojo, I'm writing to let you know that I don't want to live anymore. I would like to tell you this in advance so you know why I'm not in school. I want to say thank you for all the things that you've done. In that moment, I did what so many of you would have done. I reached out to our school counselor who did a risk assessment. We were able to get Kenny immediate help. He was able to start an in-person therapy program and get connected with our amazing school psychologist. He still had moments of darkness when he struggled, but in therapy, Kenny was learning tools to help feel his own light, and I was learning how to give him the space to shine. At the end of the school year, it was the first moment I realized that our students don't drop their mental health backpacks outside our classrooms before they walk in. They bring their hopes, their fears, their traumas, their coping mechanisms with them, whether or not they have a pencil in their hand. This light, this brightness, this was something I never thought twice about when it came to Sean. In fact, the summer of 2018, I thought Sean was living his best life. He spent the summer after his college graduation down at the shore. He was about to begin his dream job in the fall, and if it seems like I'm bragging, you're right. I'm a little biased because Sean wasn't just a student. He wasn't even my student. He's my little brother. As his older sister, my conversations with Sean that July ranged from extremely transformational discussions about contestants on The Bachelor and to making sure that he remembered that Mom's birthday's coming up and we need to think of a gift. Usually, when I text my brothers, it's time to think of a gift, they say, drop the Venmo amount. But that summer, Sean stopped answering in the group chats. He no longer picks up the phone and calls me when he's unsure of what tie looks best with his dress shirt. He can't ask me what the proper use of a semicolon is anymore. For my brother Sean, his mental health backpack must have been filled with heaviness and darkness that he thought we wouldn't understand. Sean lost his battle with depression and took his own life a few weeks before his 24th birthday. When I say this, the big sister in me, the teacher in me wants to say, struggling with your mental health doesn't make you less of a person. It just makes you a person. The point of these stories isn't to compare Kenny and Sean, but to realize there's no one face of mental health. There's no one kid that fits the description of what to look for or what to expect. The darkness of depression doesn't dim the light our students show others. It merely bends it in ways that makes it hard for them to see themselves. Our job isn't to make this idea of a mental health backpack go away, but carry the backpack for our students when needed, showing them strategies to shift the weight or to make it lighter altogether. As I walked back into my classroom after that summer, I realized it wasn't just about safe spaces. That's the bare minimum. It's about brave spaces. So I had some work to do. I had to create and find resources to teach students that people are inherently good and have the capacity to learn, grow, and change, that their unique voices matter. And when you take that idea and reflect your students' lights back to them, they suddenly have the language, the words that Sean didn't have, to tell their truth even when their voice quivers. As a teacher, talking and supporting students around mental health is something that can seem sticky, a subject that seems much too heavy when matched with the world of standardized tests. I get it. But when it comes to benchmarks, since that summer, for the past 5 years, my students have had the highest test scores in our district and the top in the state. When we bring honest connection back into the classroom, our students succeed beyond any goals we could set for them. In 2024, I found out that I won Baltimore City Teacher of the Year, and a student sent me a Facebook message. Ms. Lojo, I wanted to reach out to you for some time, but I wasn't sure if you wanted to hear from me. Looking back, I realized how much you cared, how much you pushed me to overcome my challenges. I ran into our old school psychologist last week, and they told me you never stopped checking in on what you could do to help me. I was really moved by that. I miss our old school, and I'm really grateful for all the effort and light, and now I use that energy to help others. Kenny. As educators, we get the honor of being mirrors and candles. We get to hold the mirror back to our students so they can see their own light, even if it comes years later. We get to be the candle, the spark that reminds them that happiness can be found even in the darkest of times. To be a mirror and a candle means not just teaching our kids where to put a semicolon, but what a semicolon means, that there's a continuation, that their story isn't over. Today, with all of you, because of all of you, you created a space where I could tell my story, where I could remember my brother Sean's story, and where I could share Kenny's story. As we go back to our schools on Monday, we get the joy of knowing that our students are still writing their stories, that we get to listen, and that we have the greatest honor of all time, handing them the pen. Thank you.